Mr. Greeley?
A hotel room in New Jersey, present.
Mr. Cummins?
Here,
Ms. Bannon?
Present.
I don't
Well,
see
thank you.
Mr. Groft. So we have a
Okay.
quorum of 4 members right now. Yes.
And because our agenda is brief, although I always regret the absence of any member and hope that they're okay. And we'll continue though, because I think we can deal with tonight's issues fairly comfortably. And Brendan, is that a good dinner that you're having there?
I'm so embarrassed to be having this in front of you, but I was very hungry, and it is the worst possible dinner. It is a snack pack.
Wow.
Some
They are
cheese.
so unhealthy.
That's bad.
I'm normally not bad. It's just I've had a busy day today, and I needed something. Sometimes these things go on till 9, and I didn't know how long I was going to be with that dinner.
Are you in Princeton?
I am.
Yeah, good for you. All right, well, let's get going. Our agenda is fairly brief, but shall we begin with announcements, John?
So one announcement, and this is tied to the excellent decision that Cheryl wrote about the Maritime Welcome Center and the Commission's decision there and how it was reached. The Maryland Historic Trust has approved as easement holders the Maritime Welcome Center in its with its construction drawings. So that's significant because the easement holder has endorsed the structure, and of course the HPC did the same. So that's good.
Yeah.
I think it was sort of underplayed, but it's actually really significant, and of course, it's significant with regard to any sort of appeal.
Yeah.
Yes.
I think it's of tremendous significance in that regard because their language and their preliminary action was featured, as most of you, I'm sure, know, or all of you, in the challenge, the suit that's currently pending. So seems significant. Anything else, John?
This is a little bit of the cart before the horse. I am interviewing for assistants right now.
Oh,
I
great.
had an excellent interview yesterday with really interesting guy. And I think a significant portion of his life is devoted to antiquities. He had been on the Hagerstown HPC. He actually appraises antiquities and has an interesting academic background. He's, I would say, a lifelong learner. So I walked around town with him, and I told him that the job description that he read is very different from the actual job description, where you're dealing with people who own properties, who have interests in accomplishing certain proposed projects, and you have to either work with them or find ways to improve their project, or ultimately sometimes you have to oppose it. So who did we run into? This is what I'm leading up to. Who did we run into? But Jane Campbell Chambliss. And she made a very, very cordial and interesting to talk to her. She made a very salient point about the billboard, of which she is the owner. And she said, no one has approached me. We're all talking about the billboard, but no one's actually approached her. She seems very approachable. And I won't go into too much detail, but I think that would be a worthwhile thing to do, to actually speak to her rather than just speak about the billboard. and
Hmm.
that just reminded me of Annapolis. Like, oh my goodness, there's lots of talk going on. There's all sorts of chatter on social media, but we actually
Well, and correct me if I'm wrong. Did she remove the current billboard design? I haven't driven past it in 2 days, and I saw something yesterday.
Yeah, the sign has changed.
The sign has
Yeah,
changed.
The
Mhm.
cockroach is
And-
gone.
Well, the cockroach is gone, and that's a good thing. But I think,
Yeah.
John, perhaps you are getting the cart a little before the horse, because
I'm just saying.
no, it's good to know that you
Right.
spoke to her and that she seemed cordial in that conversation. But here's the thing. The petition that was presented to us argues, I think, one strong argument and main point is that they are not going through the process that is appropriate. That is, every time it changes its imagery, it should be a new application. Now, I can't rule on that. We can't rule on that. That's beyond our authority and purview. That's a matter for the Office of Law. So there's no reason that the commission at this point should be conversing with her. She might be conversing with us or with the city, with the Office of Planning and Zoning, or with you in your official capacity. So,
Well, I was actually thinking, Will, maybe you and Chris Jakubiak and I.
well, here's what I'm proposing. And this will come up when we discuss. I drafted a short memorandum to the council and mayor asking for their guidance through Chris, through you, through Chris, through the Office of Law, and any other offices that the mayor deemed appropriate to review this, and then to advise us on how to proceed. I don't feel that all of us here have the knowledge, and that needs to be passed to us by those who do. For instance, Cheryl, after reviewing the document that was submitted by the petitioner, so I don't think it would be appropriate for you or me to talk to you, maybe, but not me, to talk to Ms. Chambliss at this time.
Okay.
Yeah.
So, should we go on to other
Yes.
other announcements?
Can I say one thing on that subject? I
Please.
think the Office of Law, would prefer, I thought you were going to, Chair Scott, I thought you were going to refer it to them, or at least, and you
Oh,
are,
yes.
but you were also saying City Council. I think, in the future, I don't know, like he wasn't on the agenda. He didn't submit a proper sort of anything. We hadn't received his presentation beforehand. So it was kind of, I think in the future, if it's not, and I don't know if you all knew about it, who knew about what he was going to do in advance, but I think we have to, for the public, it needs to be on the agenda. I don't think it was specifically, correct me if I'm wrong.
I think it was. I think
I think, was
very
it?
very close to the meeting. I
Oh,
put
It was
put it
publicized.
out. Right.
it was very,
Yeah.
well,
Yeah.
okay.
So
And did he,
there was uncertainty about it.
yeah,
But what I did know also was, and I don't want to infer that Rick Hutzel is a hound, but the hounds were nipping at the heels, and it was just the next day that the story came out about the billboard, and Rick Hutzel had made a request to interview me, which was denied by my department head.
Well, so that everybody knows as much about this as they possibly can, the quote Mr. Hutzel attributed to me was completely accurate. And I actually made that remark when I was being interviewed, or I was talking with a reporter that then obviously shared. I didn't ask for it to be off the record or anything like that. I just, it came up in his conversation with me. And so I expressed my opinion, and obviously Mr. Hutzel, as many people in town have said to me over the years, why is that ugly thing there? Is it legal? Is it proper? And I gave my opinion, and I was quoted, but I would not talk to Mrs. Chambliss at this point until I know what, Cheryl, what your department says, what Chris says, what the mayor says. I'm not asking the mayor. I don't think we should ask the mayor for him to weigh in and tell us, because he's not really the one who would guide us, but he can refer that material that was sent in by the petitioner to offices that he thought should review it, or your office would guide him on doing that. See what I'm saying?
And, I'm sorry. John, did
No,
you?
I'm just saying
I
I
understand.
want us to discuss this evening, this brief message that I've composed,
Oh.
get your input on whether you support referring it on, because I don't think we have the authority to take action.
Well, yeah, we were talking about, and John, you mentioned, it was mentioned as an enforcement issue. And I thought there was an opinion that, I can't think of her name right now, escapes me.
Jackie Rouse?
No,
You mean in the law office, Jessica?
no, no, not Jessica.
Right.
Maybe it was Jackie Rouse. So that it was an enforcement issue, because now that she changed it, maybe now, if she should have applied for, approval when she changed it, it's one thing, but before, wasn't it an enforcement issue? I mean, it wasn't any application or anything that was before the HPC. It would have been an enforcement issue, wouldn't it?
Here's the way, Cheryl, that I understand it. I was on the planning commission, as you know, for some time, and this came up a number of times, came up to the planning commission. Why is this here? And I think, was the one who requested that Jackie Rouse, who was a member of the
Rouse.
staff, review it. And she wrote a report, wasn't as long as the petitioners, and as detailed, but it came to the point of enforcement. We don't know how this thing got built and whether any review permits were issued. So it's grandfathered in because that documentation, it doesn't exist, but now it's an enforcement issue. And she was told by the department head at that time, and I was told offhandedly, unofficially, by a number of elected officials, just let it alone.
Okay, that's the history I was referencing.
Yeah.
Ineffectively referencing, but referencing. And
Yeah.
so what's the current director's opinion about it? I'm just
That's
wondering.
what I'm at, what I
John,
think
if
we
you
should
know.
ask for.
Yeah, okay, gotcha.
Well, I don't want to speak for Chris Jakubiak,
No.
but I think that there is an understanding that the process is legal, that it requires a change of code because the billboard is grandfathered, and that it would require support from the city council, and also it would require amortization for the billboard owner. And the issue of amortization is a difficult one. It's only been enforced, and effectively so, in Prince George's County. There isn't a precedent within Anne Arundel County, as far as I know. It's tricky, and that's why I think the most important thing is possibly to speak with the owner and see what she says, because we haven't really heard from her.
Well, I think that's all very reasonable and is consistent with everything that I know about the case. But I don't think that should be initiated by us, and it
Right.
shouldn't be initiated by you without Chris's and the mayor's authorization to do so.
Right. So we would talk. We do it all day long.
Yeah.
I have one other announcement. If anyone, if you want me to go ahead with that,
Please.
okay. So there was a stop work order issued for 86 State Circle, and an unfortunate situation where a footing for a retaining wall was dug on a neighbor's property. And the permit hadn't been issued. And the HPC approval hadn't been issued. That was an administrative approval. And it's a fairly minor feature. Time sensitive because the owners, Annapolis Capital Partners, would like to open. And if you go by there, the front of the building looks great. They've restored their hairpin fence and the windows. I don't think they've done any repointing, but there's new planting. That was all approved by this commission. So it looks good. In the back, unfortunately, the footing for the retaining wall was dug at least several feet in the wrong place. 3 feet deep, and of course about 2 feet wide, in an area that really should have had archaeological monitoring. So now the owner of the property that was encroached upon is the city of Baltimore. That's the neighbor there. However, last night at about 7 or so, all parties agreed that a temporary right of entry would be issued to allow for the footing to be backfilled and for the new footing to be dug. Now, also in the rear of the building, a historic back porch was removed and rebuilt with pressure treated wood, and that's the next phase. I approved the building permit now that there is the agreement between the two parties that they can backfill, they can step on the property to do that, and then we're on to the back porch. I know that there's a lot of, let's say, nervous energy about this stopping the opening of 86 State Circle, which is a luxury boutique hotel. Quite nice on the inside also, I might add. But I don't think it's going to do that. And, we just need to get back to recreating the porch that was removed. And I'm working on that. That's the second approval. I did put a stop work order on the project. It was not gladly received, but it wasn't intended to cause any sort of, let's say, any sort of thought that these people were being singled out. The idea was that it needed to be a reminder that there's a process. And the process is that if you want to remove a historic porch, you have to get approval for it. Or if you're going to dig a very deep footing on a potentially significant historic site, you have to have archaeology. And this is just how we proceed. So
John, I'd like to thank you for your diligence in that, and I'd like to share with the commissioners that I looked at the site from the sidewalk when John told me, and one of the nearby neighbors also told me that they were concerned with this. And I'm not an engineer, but the thing that concerned me more immediately than the issues John has raised, which are very significant to us, was that it really looked like the hole was encroaching on even another property, a neighbor's residential property, and that it could be unstable. I'm not an engineer, so I can't make an informed
we got lucky.
evaluation. But I'm glad that you went out and took care of it so quickly for all of those reasons.
Well, I also want to say that the city of Baltimore and Jackson Gilman Forlini, who is the preservationist in charge of the project, was really proactive, and I would say extremely pleasant to work with. And the drafting of the agreement was from the city of Baltimore. It wasn't from the Annapolis Capital Partners. So he actually, City of Baltimore actually was proactive.
Good.
I'm glad. Believe me, I'm glad it's over. And on to the next one. However, the two things that I think are important are this. I didn't mention it at our public hearing meeting, but the contractor was the presenter for 155 Duke of Gloucester Street. So it's just important that they'll also be the contractor for an upcoming project, which is 28 College Avenue, and one of Annapolis Capital Partners owns 28 College Avenue. So these are very small circles here. The most important thing is just that we work within our guidelines.
Yeah. Yep.
And not create issues which need to be dealt with in terms of emergencies.
Yeah.
Like, oh, a mistake has been made. This is now your emergency. Tremendous amount of staff time, not just me. Tremendous amount of consternation and worry on the part of neighbors.
Yeah.
And I've always thought that it was important to respect the neighbors' positions on projects too. But when there's a gas pipe exposed, Ms. Utility hasn't been called, and digging has exposed a gas pipe, and you live next door to it, you have a right to be very worried.
Well, John, as I think you, all of my interactions with you have made me realize that you consider all of these things. And I think that what we're really trying to do is what's best for the community and to be fair and consistent. And not to change the topic, but that's part of what I consider at play when we talk about the billboard in a few minutes. The whole community needs to understand why it's there, how it's there, what are the issues at hand. And anyway, we'll move on to that. Do you have any other announcements right now?
I think that's enough for tonight.
Yeah, well, thank you. Thanks for that information. So let's go on with the.
Can I ask a question about a property I've been wondering about, just to ask if it's crossed anyone's radar? Because it's clearly a historic building. If you go down, I don't know the address of it, but if you go down King George Street almost into Gate 1, and you hang that sharp right onto East Street, there's a building that's being like totally gutted. And I'm just wondering, has that gone through you?
Oh, absolutely. Right.
Okay,
of course, Mary, we don't control the interior.
Oh yeah, I know.
Right. So that is Jonathan Hollander, and he definitely wants to follow guidelines. He asks about everything before he does it. I think he's going to restore the front facade, which will be great. And then he's probably going to leave the stucco up on the 3 other sides of the house. Jonathan's actually very proactive.
Okay, I just was wondering.
He understands about things like tax credits, that if you work within approvals, you can also get a tax credit, which is huge for a commercial property owner. It's 25%. And if you did the state of Maryland, you get another 20%.
Yeah. Nice.
And is that going to be, is it staying apartments?
I'm not sure. He would like to make it multi-unit, and he's pretty good with managing those. He took out the ceiling on the second floor, and of course, now it's open and very, very lofty, very voluminous. He's done a good job. He also did the building for at the corner of Francis and Main, which had been the Annapolis Federal, and he has small-ish apartments there, and they're well done. And then he's also doing the Leader. Is that what it was called? The store on the corner of
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Right, Conduit and Main.
John, are there people who want to do the work session present and ready to do that?
I have not spoken to them.
So we don't know if
They
they're
were
present.
in the waiting room 30 minutes ago.
Oh, okay.
we
Well,
have
we
a
don't want to
meeting,
keep them
Craig.
waiting too long, although this has been important. So, Kim, let the record show that Mr. Williams has arrived and is participating. Okay, so let's, John, let's get the people from Pinckney Street on board, hear what they have to discuss.
That isn't something that I can do.
Well, you know what I mean.
Right. Yes. No, we do.
I
want
think they're in now.
Right.
There we go. Now if we can just see them and hear them.
There we go. Well, hello,
All right.
Brady.
Hello.
Okay, if you would introduce yourself for the record.
I'm Craig Martin from Spire Architecture, one of the principals for Spire Architecture.
Craig, you
Hello,
look
Brady
quite
Reader with
different
Spire
from the
Architecture.
last time I saw you.
It's the glasses. I'm in smart mode. Well,
Okay. And your co-host?
Brady Reader with Spire Architecture.
Okay. All right, let's hear it, gentlemen.
all right. So I think you guys have I guess the packet that has been forwarded, that has the
Yes.
details. This is one of a number of attached houses, row houses on the bottom of Pinckney Street. And this would be the fourth of these sort of vertical, we essentially call it the doghouse. The way to get from the inside up to that area to be able to get out on the rear deck. Essentially the form was modeled off of some of the others that are already there, set back from the ridge, and partially that's because structurally that's the place to put it, and also so it doesn't encroach on the neighbors. The size is, enough to get a space up there. The materials we understand as part of that submission are all ones that have been approved for use in the historic district. I have my co-pilot here with me as well. So I'm not sure exactly what else to share, except that the mindfulness has been put towards making it not visible from the street, which was done. We did one, I guess, 3 units to the east there, maybe 3 or 4 years ago. So a similar kind of space. This one was actually easier because it is not next to a building that already has another structure. So sized to get a normal sized door, but no greater. It's not visible from the public right of way. Did you guys see anything in the question or in the packet that would spur any questions, or we weren't exactly sure what else to say except, here's what it is. If there are any thoughts or any suggestions about what the HPC would like to see.
Okay, so if that's the extent of your presentation, we have received those materials. I hope everybody's had a chance to review them, all the commissioners, that is. I think we're all familiar with Pinckney Street in that area. It's so close to the city dock, almost everybody who lives in Annapolis or has ever visited has seen Pinckney Street. I will just ask one question, because when I was on the Planning Commission quite some time ago, people began to come through with these. John, we have to approve it before the Planning Commission can consider it, or do they even need to consider it?
I don't think that this will go to Planning Commission. It will be reviewed by zoning.
Yes.
And within the office, I've already looked at it with a planner.
Okay.
Frankly, from a planning standpoint, I don't see an issue. And that was so. Now, of course, what we haven't said, or maybe you did, and I got up, was your disclaimer. Have you said your disclaimer?
You mean as Craig said a disclaimer?
No,
Do we have a disclaimer?
the HPC's disclaimer, right? That it's not a binding
yes.
decision.
Oh, I'm sorry. Yes.
Right.
Now I understand. Craig, of course, you and your compatriot there understand that this is only a work session. Nothing we say indicates approval or disapproval of final decision. Okay,
Yeah, we understood the process to be, this was more of a, if there's any glaring questions or needs, we assume that anything that would be said tonight, we would modify the plans as appropriate. And then we are prepared, I think Brady, 2 days from, is it Monday that the application is due? Do I have that right? So we'd work, tirelessly into the midnight hours, all weekends to make sure everything's prepared. But I mean, the things that we were all considering, there's a staircase there that is to a loft space that is less than 250 square feet that, has a stair that is going to be reviewed, I'm sure, by Ryan. It's a very similar situation as the other ones.
yeah, we have no control over the
Right.
interior at all. So it's the view from the street, the exterior materials, all this thing. So I have no further questions. Do the other commissioners have questions of the applicants? Or proposed applicants? Okay, well, if there are no questions, then I'll just offer up that it seems to be a very feasible proposal that's consistent with our guidelines, and also it has already appeared and been applied to some of the other close by structures. So
Thank you. Yeah, we try to be as sort of as vanilla. They don't really want anything extravagant. Understanding that there's a material requirement, do what we need to do. So I think the client is very amenable to any suggestions.
So the commissioners that are present and participated, could you just, John, did you want to offer more comment
Oh,
before
I
I
just
do
I
that?
just want to say that we have within the department, we have looked at it, and we don't see any red flags. Now that doesn't mean that the review is going to go forward without any. And of course, code review is, especially for a third story, is very strict. And I'm sure you're aware. So our approval is not the same as the plan reviewer, and you
We
all
made it
know.
clear to our client that typically the language would be, there's no exception taken at the moment. Not it's approved, but
Right,
we don't see any problems yet.
right.
Yeah, so
Okay.
Okay, so would all the commissioners agree with me by show of hands that this is a feasible project? Okay, all those present have agreed with that. So go forward and let us see what you've got formally.
So, Craig, you think you're going to have your application in by Monday?
yeah, I mean, everything's ready. This was let's just make sure that everything is, the Ts are crossed, the Is are dotted. But I mean, everything is prepared to, just put it on the desk.
Okay, most important thing is to get the application in, and if we need to revise, we can revise.
Thank you very much. Perfect.
And I'll just add in too, because I think this has already been made clear, but I think it sounds that you already said it, but there's no view that's broken by anybody, like any neighbors or anything like that for the Naval Academy Chapel or anything like that.
Nope.
Okay.
No,
Perfect. That was the only
this
thing
is
I just wanted to confirm.
Yeah, this is the end unit, and the next door neighbor, and the views are kind of the chapel and of the harbor. And whoever designed this structure, they sort of angled it appropriately so everybody has their view of the harbor and of the Naval Academy. So it works out pretty nicely that it's not in anybody's view shed.
Good. Okay, Craig, thanks for coming in. Good to see you
Thank you all.
again.
Appreciate your time.
Sorry about your dad.
Oh, thank you. Thank you.
All right. So the last item that's on our agenda before any administrative business, this is really administrative business, I think, is our discussion of the city dock billboard. So, Craig, unless you think this is fascinating, you can depart.
I'm gonna go watch some Bluey. I mean, I got plans tonight.
Okay. All right. Good. So anyway, what I did was I drafted, it's really just a paragraph. And I'm going to read it. At one point, I was going to try to send it out to you, but I'm not clever enough to do that, despite all the fooling around on the computer I do. So let me just read it, and as a way to start the discussion, and then I'd like everybody else who's present to share their thoughts about what's going on and how we should proceed. Okay, it's a memorandum to the Mayor and City Council from the Historic Preservation Commission. at the regularly scheduled meeting of the commission on April the 8th, 2025, John, I can never remember the gentleman's name, but anyway, Mr. Brock.
Effie Brock. Effie Brock.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Mr.
Effie
Brock
Brock.
presented the attached petition for review, which has been shared with all of you. And we would share as an attachment to this message, petition for review by the City of Annapolis Historical Preservation Commission of a non-conforming billboard sign located at 118 Dock Street, 119 Prince George Street. As we all know, the referenced billboard has been a prominent feature of the city dock area for at least 50 years. As the petitioner made clear, it is inconsistent with the purpose and regulations of the historic district. The members of the Historic Preservation Commission have no enforcement or inspection authority. Thus, we look to the mayor and council for guidance in considering this citizen's request. To conclude, the commission requests a review of the petition by the Historic Preservation Officer, the Director of Planning and Zoning, the Office of Law, and any other responsible city department at the discretion of the mayor. The commission considers this a matter of significant concern, but is unclear on how to address the petition. We appreciate your consideration of the matter and await your direction. So I thought that was directing it to the people who do have the authority and the expertise to analyze this petition and then tell us if we can proceed and if we should proceed with any further action. And I guess this would be a good time for me really to ask Ms. Wood if she would quickly opine on this before we start a further discussion.
Okay, I would ask if I remember you saying that you were going to refer it to maybe to the city law department at the time after this happened. I did receive a message from the city law department that they had heard about what happened. They heard that this petition was presented. They wanted to know more. I gave them more information, and they do not believe that this is within the purview of the HPC, which it isn't under the code, because, you know, as you've pointed out, this will require a code change because billboards weren't prohibited till much later. I mean, and then also the only thing it says right now with regards to historic is that you can't have, you know, a painting on a wall within the historic district. So the city law department, this is unofficial, but doesn't feel it's within the HPC's purview. I think that is correct. I think referring it to the city law department first would be appropriate since it's not within the HPC's purview. I would ask if you would consider just referring it to the city law department and let them deal with what to do with it as opposed to the city council. That's my just recommendation.
Well, given your expertise and your role with us, I take that as at the moment, I take that as definitive unless any of the other commissioners think we should proceed in a different manner. That's what I'm really looking for, is the guidance in the Office of Law. If it were, especially after what Cheryl's just said, I don't see that we really have any other course that would be appropriate.
Why do you think Effie Brock brought it to HPC in the first place instead of to somebody else?
Well, there's really no one else to bring it to. It requires, and I think there were some suggestions given to him by some of you, the commissioners, about maybe you should talk to, you know, your elected official, and it requires a code change. So it's really, there's no, you know, it's not it should go before the planning commission or anywhere else. You know, it was grandfathered in. And something, you know, and John Tower said earlier, you know, there's some issues you have to deal with when you're talking about something that's grandfathered in. So there isn't another place other than to go and try to change the law. He could do that, try to change the code. He could get some support from his elected officials and try to do that.
That's why I was suggesting that to him.
Yeah, it was you, Chair. It was suggested to him, and that would be on him to do that. Yeah. But I think he's just looking for an audience. I think, you know, that we have to consider and this is up to you all, whether you want to allow someone to present something that isn't properly before this commission. Because it really isn't. There's not, as you stated, Chair, there's nothing you all can do about it. You don't have enforcement power. You don't have, you don't have any power over this. So, and it's a great issue to be concerned about. And I think if we put it to the law department, they can at least, review it. Because I told them it was coming. I told them you would refer it to them. And I think that's the appropriate thing to do, and then we'll see. But there is a question about whether we should, or whether, when I say we, I mean you guys should be hearing, should have even heard it, because you don't have any power to do anything. I know people are looking for an audience.
Well,
So to go back to you, yeah, I'm not sure why he came. Yeah, he wanted an audience. It's in the historic district, so. And something should have been
well,
done.
here's my thought on that.
Yeah. Mhm.
And while in the chair and given the recent events, with people questioning whether the public really has access to us in our decision-making process, I thought at the moment that it was best, and I always think it's best to err on the side of letting the public make their feelings known to elected and appointed officials. And we're appointed officials of the city of Annapolis. So if the Office of Law told me that it was improper, and I won't do it again. But lacking that, that would be my position.
Yeah, I won't go that far. There's no sort of, opinion that it's improper, but there was a question about why, why
He's looking for an audience.
It's not within your purview. The HPC's purview to hear. But I would say, if you all agree, let's refer it to the law department and let them deal with it. We're certainly not prohibiting this citizen. He could go to the city council. He can go to his elected officials on his own. He can certainly do that. But I think going to the law department is the smartest thing now. And I thought that, and we had kind of said you had kind of said we might do that. And I think they're expecting that, but someone did. I don't know who. Maybe I don't know who could have. There wasn't anybody there. I don't know. Maybe there's somebody online. I don't know who told the law department, but somebody came back to the law department, and I think I gather that. Well, I won't speculate, but somebody took it.
Sherry listens to all of the recordings on the. I guess the Monday after a meeting or the next work day after a meeting. I'm not sure what it is. And I would expect that she might have shared that within the administrative offices. So anyway, I'm not at all concerned about that.
No, just
so anyway, commissioners, what do you think we should do as our next step?
I mean,
Anyway.
if the lawyer says that we should wait to see what the law department says, I'm loath to disagree with the lawyer, having not passed the bar in this or any other state.
And I'll say I've watched a lot of legal TV, so I know what I'm talking about when I say. I'm with Brendan on that. To answer
aren't
your
people
question,
saying, Cecil, before you say more, aren't people saying? I've heard people say so many times.
Yeah,
I'm just
I'll say
throwing in my little parody.
Yeah.
Have you seen Suits episode 4? No. Anyway, to answer your question, Cheryl, in my opinion, I think there's so many people that want to come before Historic Preservation Commission for projects. I don't think there should be anything presented to us that we can't do anything about. There are other avenues. Now, with respect to the fact, Chairman Scott, your opinion kind of made me reconsider that comment, because the fact that, the Welcome Center was what had prompted everything and being sued over the Welcome Center decision. I think like this might be one of those situations where an exception is warranted. But I think for all other cases, and it probably should be at the discretion of either, John Tower or Chairman Scott there. John, sorry, I forgot your title for a second. Department of the head of the
Chief
Department
of Historic Preservation.
Yeah. Anyway, but one other comment that I thought was useful for the record, because it was mentioned that one of the resisting factors of not doing anything about it was an income stream supporting a local resident. Now we know that she's very open to a conversation, but if she had the ability to have them remove that specific image right away, that means she has probably more control than somebody might anticipate over that lease agreement. So that's probably worth noting. But again, we probably shouldn't spend too much time talking about something we can't do anything about, since there's so many other things that we could be doing.
Yeah, yeah.
So
And
are
we
you-
have very good advice, legal advice right here with our counsel. So it kind of clears it up for me. If you're in agreement, then we'll just refer it to the Office of Law.
Okay, oh, I'm sorry, you're not talking to me.
Bill?
Ken? Hello?
Do you want to still do the write-up, Chair Scott, but just say it's to?
No, I
to
don't think
city-
that's necessary, given your advice, and they're already aware that this is happening.
Okay,
I have a possible compromise as a proposal.
Mhm.
If the city would be willing to make a contract with the owner for them to provide signage regarding city events and use that sign to let people know what's going on in the city and when. It could be a simple printed schedule that goes up, artistically done. Then it remains. The signage is useful to the community, and the owner does still get a remittance. But that would have to be something that city council would act.
Right. So it's beyond our control. And the other consideration, Bill, that's a very fair and a reasonable suggestion, as
That's
all
why it
of
won't be
your
done.
suggestions have been. Well, there is that. But even more than the fact that it's fair and reasonable is that Clear Channel is a very aggressive for-profit organization. And they're not going to go away unless they get a market rate. And I think that's what Ms. Chambliss has told people, perhaps even John, is her conundrum. She can't really make a decision like you're suggesting without dealing with Clear Channel, and they're very avaricious.
Well, the city could respond in an equally negative way by saying no signage.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because it's too big and too overloaded. But that's the city, that's our lawyers, and I'm neither the city or the lawyers.
Yeah.
And I wouldn't overthink the lease agreement, because I think that I've read some of their leases. I think that I wouldn't let that be an obstacle to making any other decision.
All right. Well, let's just see what the Office of Law directs us to do, and if there's anything they say that we can do constructively, we'll do that. Okay. Good.
Okay. Good.
All right. Well, that actually takes us to our last published item, administrative business, but I think we've just covered that. John, do you have any other administrative items?
No, I'm interviewing people for my former position, and I would hope that as we get closer to narrowing down the field, that maybe you could come in and speak with them.
I would be happy to do that.
Right.
Thank you for the invitation.
Right, and I hope that. I hope that whoever we end up with, and we have some really qualified people, that they're going to be good for this commission. So I'm looking forward to progress and new things.
Good.
They have big shoes to fill.
Yeah. Yes, we have a tradition of capable people doing these jobs. So that's right, Bill. Thank you. All right. Well, if there's no other business, I'm open to motions to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
Motion seconded by who seconded? I heard Brendan.
Bill. Brendan.
No, you made the motion.
Several.
It was Bill, but I'll
Bill
second
Wade.
the second.
All right. Motion made and seconded. All in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Uh,
thank you all for your attendance, particularly those of you who are elsewhere and still found this interesting way to spend some of your evening's time.